Hi. Welcome in, welcome in.
Even when I go.
Is he able to get in?
Oh, thank
Yeah, the outdoor lock is,
Oh.
I think the exterior door is locked.
And it still won't.
I don't have
What
a
if you,
hex key.
Nicole, do you have the hex key to the exterior door by any chance? No? Okay. Do we have to?
Try opening.
Susan usually unlocks it.
Oh, okay. Susan, do you have the
Oh, no, it's in the.
exterior door key?
I do.
Is
It's
that,
locked, I
Okay.
guess.
Well, I don't know.
okay, yeah,
Yes,
did you send the agenda in Edge Portal this month or just? On
the
the
agenda is
website?
at the beginning of the board packet.
It was also a separate page in Edge portal.
And we're live, by the way,
Okay.
Thank you.
I think.
How do I make sure that my email is right?
So there you go. You got them set up in your own. Yeah, no.
Okay, how about that? Don't ask me for a password, because I go, what is this?
I don't think he was gonna ask for a password.
Huh?
That's the first rule. They'll never ask you for your password, right?
That's just corner.
If they ask you for your password, it's a scam.
Yeah, you trying to drop the cat?
I'm gonna get in trouble. I'm gonna get in trouble already.
I'm guessing I know which amendment, not amendment agenda. I
There's
don't-
just a couple of things that I'm curious.
Okay, I can't guarantee I'll have answers, but
You know, I don't know. if
I can try to find them.
But this came from
Make it up.
technology.
I believe we voted you into the authority of making it up if you don't know the answer.
Okay, here's the thing, I've been using that authority long before I was given it.
I give it to myself the day I was born. If I don't know the answer,
Just say something,
sure I do.
hopefully it stinks.
It earned me an art degree.
Yeah.
That's how you get an art degree. You know that.
Yeah.
In your film classes? Oh, yes, that was very intentional. Thank you for
Right.
picking up on,
That was
picking up on the metaphor. All your quick keys on your keyboard are set.
So we will go ahead at this time and get started. And, let's see. Brian, you wanna lead it? Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. Now, approval of the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented in our packet.
And then second that.
Okay, been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Request for agenda modifications.
I have two.
I also have one.
Okay, one of them is, we will not have a student services report tonight.
Okay,
Kelsey's just a little overdone. And, the other one in, where am I? E, under the policies.
Yep.
I want to make reference to CHCA, which has to do with handbooks. And it goes back to the parent request who came in February to talk to us about homework and things like that. So I want to reaffirm that policy and follow up with the results.
so You're gonna put that policy.
So CHCA is really up for affirmation,
CHCA.
yep,
Okay,
please.
And then I have a request for agenda modification that there's a person in the room who doesn't know I was about to do this, but I was wondering if we could move the financial report up to the beginning of the reports so that somebody can go to the game.
It's over.
It's over, never mind.
Thank
I
you.
withdraw my request.
Well, it's almost over. Thank you, though.
I was trying so hard to get you to that game. Okay,
I would think that the student government report might skip not seeing a student,
They're at play practice,
so
or dress rehearsal, excuse me.
we might
Yes.
nix that if there's not a student here.
good call.
And I will tell you that, both of them had emailed me and said, we can't be here.
Sure.
So you want to talk about really good follow through from students to be able to take care of that level of responsibility.
Like it.
So I told them both to break a leg and that was where we went.
yeah. I got one, I'll ask you, under school stuff, it says technology. The phone system, is there, oh, that's what that is,
He's
okay.
gonna talk about a couple of different things.
Okay, because I knew that they were supposed to have everything in the Friday before spring break and. Pioneer, I don't know if they got their stuff in or not, but we'll discuss that when we get to it on the agenda then. I just want to make sure we didn't miss.
Nope, you're good. You're good.
Okay. So that's all the agenda modification done? Okay. Public comment,
Nothing.
nothing. Or the mayor doesn't have a public comment?
I'm just here to listen. Although I've been told I will be forced to give comment later.
Okay, reports, there is no student government report, association reports, PEA.
Good evening. I know I'm not coming up to the front. I don't do it. I know this already, so, everything's going well. We're heading into bargaining next week is our first meeting and conferences today and tomorrow. So I'm exhausted. That's much of a report you're gonna get from me right now. So.
Well, thanks, Nicole.
Yeah.
And to sort of tag on to that, the conferences, I was at the SAC council meeting for the middle school yesterday. And Steve was sharing their results and it was really strong as far as the percentage of parent involvement, student-led conferences at grade 6 through 8 and everything else. It went, according to him and the other members of the council, really well this year. So
Good.
Commend them on that.
Do we have an OSEA?
I was looking in my email. I don't have one.
Okay. School stuff, technology.
Laura?
Welcome.
How's everyone doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing well.
I'm doing real good, thanks to your helper there that got me all.
Well, for those who don't know me, I'm Mark Neville. This is Josh Martin. I'm the technology director and he's our system administrator for the district. So we're gonna try and keep this brief, but feel free to jump in if you have any questions. We're happy to stop and answer questions. So. Just a few things. First off, we're a small team. There's 4 of us that support the whole district. We do a lot. We're always busy. But some things you should know is we're always embracing alternative solutions and looking for ways to save the district money when it comes to technology because it's very expensive and we're trying to find ways that is the best solution for everybody. You know, this has allowed us to be flexible as far as systems that we use and support and what we need to move to in the future if something happens or there's a transition that needs to be made. It has also allowed us to kill off a lot of expensive annual licensing for software and for services that we use. One example is VMware, which hosts all of our servers. It's our server backbone. And we were using VMware for that. And it was very, very costly. And they were recently bought by Broadcom. And the cost of those annual licensing went up from 40 to 60% for districts. We had transitioned off of that just before that. So we did not pay any of that licensing. We moved to free and open source software. And it's been running our district for well over a year now. Very secure. It's been great. A few major projects we've completed over the last year or so. This is just to catch everyone up. The data server, which houses all the data for the district, like all the sensitive data for students, everything like that. We had gotten a quote originally for $150,000 to replace the one we currently have. We ended up paying $17,000 for a server. And we managed self-managed system ourselves with, again, free and open source software, and it's been running our district again for over a year, safe and secure, and we did daily backups. Everything is redundant. It's great. Phone system, here's one everyone wants to hear about. That is up and running. The phone system, the new phone system is currently up and running. It runs all the phones. The only thing, so originally we quoted $70,000 to replace our phone system. We paid less than $30,000 because all we currently bought was handsets and a little bit of licensing for the server itself. Albany is currently following suit in this. They are building their own system based on ours and transitioning off of theirs because they were quoted an astronomical fee. The one thing left with the phone system is the service that actually transports the phone calls. We are on the old technology called PRI, and that is hosted through Pioneer. We are still on this. We would like to transition to SIP, which is the more modern technology for phone transport. We are in talks with Pioneer. They are working to see if they can make this work and provide SIP service with our current phone system. They know we don't want to go out and buy a whole new one and start all over again. So we're giving them time to come and see how they can help us. And if they can't, there are other services that we can transition to that incorporate our phone system. And SIP is much more cost effective for us as a district. It's a fraction of the price a month is what we pay now. So it'll be a good transition once we do.
Question on the phone, and Rick might have the same, and very simple to Rick and I both heard from Pioneer board members that felt they weren't given an opportunity to quote a phone system to Pullman. And so I told the one that contacted me, different one that talked to Rick, just that would ask questions. Because so their comment was, you know, when the school needs something, they come to Pioneer for like donations. And then when you guys need the phone system, they didn't ask us. I said, I don't know nothing, but I'll ask, and I see that when we have the opportunity. So a board member Pioneer's comment is simply, won't ask us for money, but not ask us to provide the phone system.
Well, we did have conversations with Pioneer. And we never got a formal quote from Pioneer, no, but we did get ballpark numbers from them. And they were trying to sell us an entire system, which would have been managed by Pioneer, which would have again tied us further into Pioneer with services and fees. And so we were trying to avoid that at all costs.
My answer to him was, I said, I don't want anybody to know they did it in-house and saved a whole lot of money. And so I just told them I'd find out something else. But yeah, that's what I told him, is that you guys did it in-house for a lot less money. And the board member, and granted, the board member may not know the day-to-day, but the one I talked to said we weren't given the opportunity to give them a number. But you guys did talk to them.
Yes.
So we can, at least I can tell them that they were given the opportunity.
Yes, and I can tell you, there's no way they could have come up with a number lower than what we paid.
Which is perfectly fine. I just told him to ask, because he.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see going with the lowest number, but I also understand that there's some things that just because they charge a little bit more, they do a lot of things for the district as far as scholarships and things like that, that I don't know if they'll go away or not. I'm not part of them. I don't want to be part of them, but I just want us to be thoughtful and not always go with the lowest price.
Oh, absolutely.
There's a lot to be said for what they've done for us in the past and what they can do for us in the future. But at the same time, I don't want us to cost double what it would, going the way that you're going now, as opposed to what they offer. I don't think we should have to pay double, so that's, I just want us to be fair with them. and treat them respectfully for what they've done in the past. And as to what they can do for us in the future, if it's reasonable.
I'm completely on board with that.
Okay.
And I don't have a problem with that. And that's why we're trying to work with them.
Okay,
Ideally, what we would do is we would have a secondary internet service that runs all our emergency services. Specifically phones, specifically security, you know, and we're working, the idea would be. If we can transition to SIP using Pioneer as our SIP provider, they could also run our secondary backbone internet for those emergency services. The reason we want to do this is because Pioneer, who's our phone provider, they've gotten rid of all the POTS lines, all the plain old telephone lines. You know, those work when the power goes out.
Yeah.
We don't have that anymore. That ability doesn't work anymore. So we need to have some sort of secondary for when the internet fails.
get a bag phone.
Right, yeah. Yeah, so no, I'm not opposed to working with Pioneer to find the best
Yeah.
solution.
Oh, I'm not saying that
I-
you were, I just want to make sure that we give them a good opportunity to
Sure,
provide a service if they can do it at a reasonable cost,
sure,
bottom line.
yeah,
If I remember correctly, when we had initially spoken to them, like Mark said, we didn't get an official quote, but what we were looking at was around $23,000 for phones for the system that we were, sort of building in-house, and they had quoted us at or had estimated 4 or 5 times that, and it would be a fully managed system under
Yeah.
it. And then I don't think they're interested in selling us a system that wasn't managed. We prefer to manage it in-house because we've had better experiences with that.
Okay,
So that's the kind of.
Yeah.
Difference that we were looking at, was, 30 and 33.
no, in like price, like, don't get me wrong, like, the lowest price is always great, but there are things that we have to pay for, and some things are worth the price, you know? It's a
Right now, in the case of power outage, are we basically depending on personal cell phones?
And it's, yes,
Yeah.
yes, I mean, if the internet goes out, all those services, are halted, so,
We're plugging into fax lines to get emergency calls through.
yeah,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow,
yeah.
okay.
I also just want to maintain the relevance to our role as board members. It's not necessarily to question the decisions that you've made. And I think maybe when board members from other organizations come with questions, we should treat them the same way we would if a parent came to us with a question or another community member came to us with a question. Direct them to Susan or.
And I did
the
provide
appropriate
information.
Policy to follow.
and I did,
Yeah, I did
I
provide
figured,
information to Rick.
It
and
then
to
also
Ryan.
came to the
Yeah.
board meeting, which is not necessarily completely appropriate for our role on the board, so I just want to make sure. We apply the same level of respect to everyone.
yeah, well, that's what I try to do is
Yeah.
same level of respect, and as soon as I got notification from Pioneer. That they felt that they hadn't been in the loop, you might
Mhm.
say, my first phone call was to Susan.
Okay.
What's up,
Yeah.
is there something that they missed, is there something we missed, and she took care of it, so. But I'm just.
Mark took
Tonight,
care of it, so I could take care of it.
yeah, well, tonight I'm just saying that, my belief is the cheapest isn't always the best.
Sure,
And I'll just leave it at that. It doesn't make any difference who the people are.
no,
It's the cheapest isn't always the best. And so
no.
that's all I'm saying. Sure. So,
And I just wanna say that, with us trying to work this out with Pioneer, it is an opportunity for not just us, but it is an opportunity for Pioneer. If they can provide this SIP service that we are asking them to provide, and to integrate with our phone system, it will lead to big business for them.
Yeah.
So it's a win-win for everybody if we can negotiate it. so
And they're
where it's
both-
reasonable for everybody,
Yeah.
And just because I'm a nerd, is that SIP CIP or SIP SIP?
SIP.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all right, any more questions on the phone system, or are we still moving on? Okay. Camera system, I'm still recapping here, sorry.
no, that's
Um,
fine. That's,
Camera system, our current camera system is up and running. It was created using the existing hardware from our old camera system. We put about less than $1,000 of bits and bobs into it to make it work right and everything like that. It's incorporated over 100 cameras. It's got 24/7 recording, motion detection. This is all built in-house. This is all managed by us. Camera systems are expensive.
Mhm.
So we have been able to do it at a fraction of the cost, and it's excellent. Woodland School District is following our lead in this. They're doing the same thing.
Where's
Um,
Woodland?
Woodland, Washington.
Oh, Woodland, Washington, okay.
Yeah, they actually reached out to get help.
Gotcha.
And we're asking for help setting theirs up. One thing we forgot to mention on the camera system is that we have because it's an open source project, we have the flexibility to use more or less whatever cameras we want. So we're not locked into, when they start jacking the prices up, we get stuck, we can just jump to a different manufacturer.
Have we added cameras to what used to exist on our campuses or in our schools?
We haven't added cameras since the last camera refresh, maybe a handful here and there. The thing with cameras, it's not the camera cost that's gonna deter us or the software or the servers at this point. It's the cost of getting the data line run for the camera. So that's the cost that's associated with cameras now.
They're not wireless?
No,
Okay. Well,
no.
I'm not a technology.
No, it's okay. It's
I would,
fair.
I would think for security reasons mostly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, wireless
Okay.
cameras they can be jammed, they're just notoriously unreliable.
Plus you then have to provide power for it, so it's not necessarily wireless.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the camera systems. Servers. All of our servers are up and running smooth, running great. We had one large server out of date that ran everything. It was our big server. It ran out of date earlier this year, which means no more security updates, means unsecure for the school. Big no. It would have cost, to replace the one we had, it would have cost well over $150,000 just to replace the one server that runs. We instead bought a bunch of small servers and clustered them together for less than $6,000. And they run everything on the district, and there's redundancy, and it's easy to replace and maintain. It's great. Great.
Security?
Very secure, very
Okay.
secure. I can let Josh talk about security
That's
for a
I
second
could
here.
go for hours. Yeah, let's know that that's number one all the time.
Okay.
Even to the point where it irritates everyone. else in the
Josh is the
department.
security
Yeah.
guru.
No, he's a computer guru, he got mine fixed, so, but no, I was just curious, that's,
Yeah, security is in the forefront. We work with LBL. We have a standing SecOps meeting with them, their security specialists, to go over cyber security threats and everything like that. And we are constantly in the forefront with other districts, just in everything that we do. We have a great standing, and I could have him talk and brag about us for a while, but I don't want to put you all to sleep, so. All right, so moving on, these are major projects that we are currently working on or will be working on here. So Ubiquiti, it's the name of networking equipment. Currently, we are on what's called Cisco Meraki networking equipment. Very costly, it's awesome equipment, and I'm not trying to say it's not great, it's not top of the line, it's not industry standard, it's fantastic. Problem is it's extremely costly to put in, to maintain, and to replace. We have already switched out our core network equipment, so the big server room where we house everything has been replaced. And we have already moved it to Ubiquiti equipment, which is much more cost effective. There's absolutely zero licensing forever, so it'll work until we need to replace it. And we've been running the whole district through it for well over 8 months. So this is really good. Now, here's where, so y'all heard of E-rate? So E-rate, with our E-rate discount, we are going to be replacing our entire network with Ubiquiti here at a 60% discount. The total cost for this project, at the discounted price for the district, of course, is $80,000 for the entire district. Now, this is in comparison to well over, I mean, it would cost us about $72,000 just to license our current year for the next year, but it doesn't take into effect all the replacements that we'd have to life cycle. So we are gonna just rip it all out. And we're gonna put in Ubiquity equipment throughout the entire district. And at $80,000, there's no licensing ever, so. When it comes time to replace, we can actually afford to replace it. If something breaks, it's a fraction of the price of Cisco, so we can afford to replace it. We try and run it as lean as possible around here, just wherever it is, but.
So we're clarifying, you threw out a number 80,000, there's really 8,000, you're gonna have to spend 73 to license what you currently have. So changing it is really that $7,000 or $8,000 number, not.
Yes, but that 73 would just be this year. It would be
Yeah, that's
again,
what I was meaning, yeah, so your 80 is really. Null and void, because if you had to license it one
Mhm.
year for 73,
yeah.
your 80
Right.
is really not an expense, it's something your 70 that's gonna happen anyway
Mhm,
for a year.
yeah,
But your 80 is an 80 for multiple years.
yes, Yeah.
Really looking at it.
yes.
And the hardware that we're buying should be good for at least 5 years. I think some of it doesn't even have established, end of life dates yet. So that 80 should carry us at least 5 years.
How often do you have to license, are they annual licenses?
So when we first purchased the Meraki, their licensing scheme is, they do 3, 5, and they used to do a 7-year. Now they do a 1, 3, and 5, I believe. Their equipment lasts 7 years. And then they used to be able to transition from one piece of network equipment to another. But because their product lines have changed, you would have to buy new licensing for any new equipment you bought. So you'd be stuck buying one for your licenses and then buying them. It steamrolls quickly.
They also pool all the licenses together so that then it's sort of expired the same. It's like incomprehensible, like just absurd. So when we finally actually sat down with somebody from Cisco and crunched the numbers, we were like, oh, this is far more expensive than, and they do that on purpose. It's sort of tricky, but yeah, trying to do the math on paper, we were like, this doesn't.
And it's unfortunate because it is a really good product and it works really well for the district. But it's not
That much better.
sustainable. Yeah, it's not sustainable, like, we need technology in the school, other places, we can't afford to put it all in one thing.
Well, if I can just interject, because as I mentioned a little bit ago, I'm a nerd. So last time you came, you had told us, I'm bragging on your behalf for a moment. Last time you came, you told us that to replace 50 switches and the access points, et cetera, for that system was gonna be $82,500 for the license and $178,000 plus $60,000, which I didn't do the math on then, not gonna do it right now. And you just said that all of what you did, and obviously there will be little costs here and there, was only $80,000. So just this evening, you've mentioned well over $400,000 that you've saved our district through creative problem solving in the last 12 months, maybe 14 months. I didn't write down all the dates. So thank you so much. And I'm, again, bragging on your behalf because I'm incredibly impressed. Generally speaking, technology costs us more and more and more money. And it's harder and harder to find those cost saving solutions. So kudos to you both. That's amazing, genuinely.
For sure.
Yeah, technology is expensive and it's not going anywhere, so we're just trying to find the best ways that it keeps us moving forward as a district, keeps supporting our students, keeps supporting our staff. Which brings me to the doors, Salto doors, the door locks. That is currently being installed right now. We're hoping to have that done by the end of next week. Our contractors are still working on the networking part of that. But the server software is built, keys are being distributed as needed. We have Mary in the district office who is lovely and she is working on creating access for users who need them. Donnell, sorry. Sorry, Donnell.
Equally awesome.
Equally awesome. Yes, it's a completely modern and secure, it runs the most modern technology for door lock systems. Our current door lock system, you could copy someone's key with just something you could get off Amazon. It was that old. This new technology is awesome. We can expand as needed. It's not going anywhere. They've been around for a while, so
Are there battery backups to these?
Yes.
Door locks in case power goes out?
yes.
Okay.
Yes, and there is a special device that facilities will have once the installation's done. It allows them to unlock the doors, like it's basically like a power unit that plugs into the door and they can unlock it if there's, even if the battery backups go back.
Oh, okay.
So will be actually access. And then the next two things, are technology for the classroom. We are working on changing staff to Chrome laptops from Windows devices. The company that we have been sourcing our Chrome devices from is a company called CTL. They're based out of Oregon. They're in Beaverton, so if there's an issue, we can actually go bang on their door, sort of thing. The difference in price between a decent Windows device that'll run on our network with proper security is about $1,400. These Chrome laptops that we're getting staffed are about $500. They're awesome machines. You've got one right here. If you want to see what they look like or see how they perform, they are better than all of the district laptops we have. And performance wise, they're not the student Chromebooks. They're not the same rubberized tiny device. They're an adult, you know.
Have we started to distribute those to staff yet?
We're in the process of starting that right now.
Okay.
I do have a question,
Yeah.
as somebody who is often handed here, everybody gets the same laptop, but has a job that requires a very
Sure.
specific, more powered. In fact, I looked to Nicole because I'm a
Sure.
graphic designer, as somebody teaching graphic design. Is there opportunity for staff members to have a souped up laptop if it's needed for their teaching?
So the plan is for the people who need software that runs exclusively in Windows and requires additional power, those computers aren't going anywhere. They're gonna have what they need to get their job done. The main thing is that what we've realized is the vast majority of staff don't.
Yeah,
And we've taken a lot of steps and put in a lot of work to make sure that things that previously you couldn't do on a Chromebook, you now can. So that covers sort of even more of the fringe cases of things like Microsoft Office. You can do through the browser now, you can edit PDFs. We have document cameras working. There's quite a long list. But for the situations like Nicole Stevie's lab, the only difference, the only thing that would change would be we're planning on trying to keep all Windows devices within the district, so they don't leave campus. And if you need access to a Windows device, to run Windows software, Photoshop, whatever else, what you'll do is you'll take a Chrome laptop and remote control that device from wherever you need to, from home.
it's a remote desktop.
It can be. Mhm.
Okay,
That's sort of our accommodation for that, but yeah, we're not leaving the people hanging who need Windows.
I know that's super
Yeah.
specific. It's just,
No, you're totally.
I have been a wounded bird waiting 6 hours for a
Yeah.
video to render before, and I hate to wish that upon anyone.
So I don't mean to interrupt, but, these guys are rock stars. I thank you for acknowledging. Thank you for recognizing how much they do for the district. They come with the mindset of, what can we do? How can we make it work? So even without me even asking, they already thought of making sure everything's taken care of. So I
See,
just want
that's
to say that
what I
they really make sure that they watched out for everybody's needs and stuff. So they do a great job.
For those things that require Windows, are our machines, or at least some of our machines, Windows 11 capable, or have we been upgraded, or are we still running Windows 10?
Windows 95.
My box at home is not, cannot be upgraded to Windows 11, so I just went to an
That is another reason for this push to Chrome laptops. It's because most of the devices in the district will not support Windows 11. And Windows 10 goes out of date October 14th of this year.
Mhm.
So that would be a big lurch come the fall if we didn't do something now. So we
Especially for safety and security and.
Oh, yeah.
absolutely,
Terrifying.
absolutely. You know, and the other thing about Chrome laptops, as we move staff to the Chrome ecosystem. It's the same ecosystem the students are using. So that is a lot easier to share, a lot easier to monitor. It's a lot more unified. So it'll help, once we get there, it's gonna help everybody all together. And it's more secure. The Chrome laptops, the Chromebook is more secure than a Windows device. We already have two-factor on our email.
Mhm.
That automatically two-factors a Chromebook. So that's a two-factor device. No one outside the district can log into a district device. You'll be able to take your device home and work on at home if you need to, or if you want to. But and at the same time, if it does break, it's $500 as opposed to $1,400.
Mhm.
You know, so it's a win.
Yeah.
Oh, on the note of the Windows 11 compatibility, I think it was about a third, maybe a quarter of the devices that we have will be able to run, well, technically, we'll probably skip Windows 11 and go straight to Windows 12. But that includes pretty much all of the desktops in the district.
Oh,
So the computer labs are safe.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
The office managers' computers are safe. It's mostly the Windows laptops, the Surfaces, the ones that everyone already hates are.
Sure, sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I know I asked a lot of questions.
No, sure.
And then the final thing I have is for classroom tech is we are trying to get interactive displays. We've ordered some. We've ordered a shipment of them. 10 are due to arrive any minute. They're coming. These, we originally were moving towards ClearTouch. That's what this is, and that's what CPS has. And they're great. They're wonderful machines. I wish we could put them everywhere. The problem is they're so expensive. They're $5,000 a unit. So we did our research and came up, and actually Josh found this one. It's their new line. It's a new line interactive display. It's 86 inches instead of 75. It does not have a computer built into it like the ClearTouch does, but it does do interactive touch when you plug a device into it. It is $1,800 as opposed to $5,000 a unit. And it works with a Chromebook, Chrome laptop, Chrome device. It works with a Windows device. They're excellent. So we've been in the process of testing one out with a teacher, trying to work out all the bugs and kinks, and we are going to keep going down that road. Because that is going to be a lot more affordable to replace all the projectors and smart boards.
When you interface with the computer, Chromebook, whatever, is it via cable or is it wireless?
It's via USB
Okay,
or HDMI.
You can do both.
And you can-
okay.
Although we do have a wireless option in mind, you wouldn't get touch ability with the wireless option, but you would get display.
Oh, okay. I'm just thinking about, because there's some classrooms where it can be problematic for the teacher to, unless you have a really long cable, which I guess is possible, problematic for the teacher to have their Chromebook attached physically to the, via cable to the display. If they're whatever their organization of their room, they have their desk has to be in the back. The screen's in the front, that's quite a distance, but I guess that just requires a longer cable. So
More or less, yeah.
Okay.
We have some flexibility in that too, in those fringe cases or in those rare cases too, because we can reuse some of the old Windows devices that are no longer,
Oh, okay, okay.
and we can actually
Have it
put,
devoted to the screen.
we can actually put Chrome OS on it and turn it into a Chromebox and then have it dedicated plugged in.
Okay.
So we reuse everything here. So.
Well, and I can't help but think if it doesn't have the computer built in, then it can keep up with technology a lot faster than having the computer built in,
Yes.
where in a few years.
There's no security
They're just-
implications because it doesn't run anything. It's just a big TV with a touch
Mhm.
screen.
So what about
You said
the
new one?
longevity of the $1,800 one as opposed to the $5,000 one? Does it last approximately the same length of time? I'm not talking the technology part of it, because technology goes
Sure.
away with one with a computer, but I mean, just will it work when you turn on?
Sure.
You know,
Well, they're not consumer-based TVs, so their longevity their runtime should be a lot longer than a consumer television, obviously. As far as longevity, you know. They're all so new, touch panel, I couldn't give you an honest answer on that, you
Okay.
know?
Well,
I
and
feel like that would be.
Yeah, at some point you just have to hope.
Yeah,
They're an enterprise product, they're very sturdy, they're very heavy.
Okay.
And like, I feel like you could probably give them pretty good punch and nothing would happen. They're-
But I mean, even if it lasted 50%, I mean, my quick math says that for $5,400, we could buy 3 of them.
Mhm.
So, I mean, if it lasts 50% as long as a $5,000 model, we're still money ahead.
Right, and the thing with these Clear Touch is because they have a computer built in the back of them. We have to be cognizant of maintaining those as
Security.
well as the TVs, they're more costly,
Yeah.
you know, just in maintenance.
What OS do they run?
Currently Windows 10,
Okay.
most will make it to Windows 11, I think there's one that needs to be upgraded. So we'll do that.
But we do have the option of, like, computer modules are removable. We do have the option of ripping them out and then using it more or less the same way we do.
Yes.
Yeah, once it gets to that point.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes,
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
yeah.
Very informative for a guy like me.
I don't know if any of the rest of you guys noticed, the technology guy came with a clipboard paper and a pen.
Yeah.
That's right.
Good point. That's
It's
right.
been said that no one needs technology more than people that work with
Mm.
it.
That's right.
That's accurate.
That's like you hear the stories of the tech people that have flip phones.
Yes, yeah.
Yep,
But I know 2 days ago, I had to get a new one, they stock it in the corrals for me.
Thank you very much
Thank
for your
you so
diligence
much.
and
Yes.
all of your price checking and everything that you guys do to try to get us the best deal that's possible, so.
absolutely, and I just want you all to know that we all care very much about the district and. Cost, cost is at the forefront, sure, we're always cognizant of that, but I don't want you to think that we're cheaping out on purpose. Or putting the district at risk for any reason, because we would never do that, like. So.
We've heard bragging about you and people coming to you for advice on how to improve their security, so.
Well, on behalf of the district, you guys get a ton of appreciation and thanks for being so diligent about,
Yeah.
being the economics of it too.
Thank you,
Right? Not just technology, but the economics.
Many,
So,
many things.
Thank you, guys.
thank you.
Yep.
Thanks for being here.
Yep, see y'all need anything?
Right, have a good evening.
Good evening. Hope everyone avoid the
Thank you,
rain.
guys.
Does it look like it's raining right now?
Superintendent's report.
Couple of different.
Not sure that it's green for call for sharing.
So, just a couple of things about this week, a couple of celebrations that we've had. This has been National Assistant Principals Week. And so, not often do our assistant principals get appreciated, so it was the opportunity to be able to recognize them. It's also National Library Appreciation Week. So it was an opportunity to recognize all those people that, that work in our school libraries. You'll see that, we accepted tonight, or you accepted tonight, Keith Klutfeld's retirement from the Philomath High School Library. And so we'll be diligently searching to be able to fill that. She will be, she and Jolene Latz have shared the job this year, and both of them will be very much missed. But we've got a really solid library group that's greatly appreciated. As far as upcoming, so that we don't miss before our next board meeting, is that Teacher Appreciation Week is May 5th through 9th. And National Nurses Week is the 6th through 12th. And it's interesting that Nurses Week extends in a different order because it has to do with, I think the last day of it falls on Florence Nightingale's birthday. And so the way that they set that up, they always want to end on Florence's birthday. So It's kind of a screwy way to set things up, but you know, that it honors for the right reasons. I put in here, just some general information about personal electronic devices. You know, we've looked at our cell phone information and, just 3 days ago, the personal electronic devices, the -4 amendment passed the House, moves on to the Senate, and the real look truly is in what the state is proposing is a bell-to-bell ban for personal electronic devices. So a couple of things within it.
Did you get the amended version?
Yeah, I have the amended
Okay.
version. It says, students, and Mark and Josh left, students who use their own personal electronic devices for curriculum must be granted access to any applications or electronic materials that are available to students who do not use their own personal electronic devices for curriculum. That is a, internet safety and security nightmare. And so, right now, we've got students using Chromebooks to be able to get there. I think we have one student right now that's using a personal device. But this really, when you're talking about a more global look, takes a really hard look at the safety and security of your networks and things like that when you're setting up to do something like that. The other part that it says, there needs to be a process and a timeline responding to us. Oh, wait, wrong one. Telephonic or electronic communications during regular school hours or during school events. If the communications are not related to academic activities or independent communications. It's saying that districts, we have a policy, but it says a policy adopted must prohibit the use of personal electronic devices by students from the start of regular instructional hours until the end of regular instructional hours, including passing time between classes and time provided for serving and eating meals. They're that specific. And we've got people looking at that. We'll have conversations with our superintendents tomorrow to be able to say, so what does that mean? What are people thinking? What are the pros and cons? Students, medical providers orders or IEP or 504 can provide acceptable use, if you will, to be able to do that. Long piece of paper.
Do we know when it's gonna be in front of?
I haven't gotten the information yet. I only got that it was approved by the House. There was
We have
Do
some,
you know when it's going to be submitted to me?
yes,
So
sir.
It will, it's scheduled for a third reading on the House floor on April 15th.
Okay, because we heard that it had passed.
It passed out of the committee,
Ah,
and then after
okay.
the committee, it goes to the.
Thank you.
But has not passed the general.
My bad, then being able to do that.
That's coming.
Sure.
I will also just say that. Right, this particular time in the legislative session. There are a lot of things on the docket, so the fact that it's scheduled for April 15th does not. Guarantee that they will get to it by April 15th. It might get pushed back, but yeah.
The other part of it says the policy must provide consequences for a student's violation of the prohibition against the use of personal electronic devices. This is one of the rare occurrences where I've ever seen in a bill about a policy and consequences. So, I mean, and not that it's a bad thing, but it's just interesting in how it's laid out. But there is a lot right now in front of the Legislative Assembly, but the cell phone information that we've put forward could all change very soon.
You could argue that some of the things in that are unenforceable, but. Yeah,
It's
It is
just,
what it is.
if it goes through, it's just gonna be interesting. And thank you for the clarification about committee versus the House, my bad. Summer learning, just a reminder that we are moving forward with our high school credit recovery in the last 2 weeks of June. We will do extended school year for those students who qualify from special education, and that will take place in August. And then we will do our lit camp again for incoming kinder through third grade students also in August of this year. There's conversation that goes back and forth in the legislative session about summer learning money. For this upcoming year, for 25-26, it appears that that's going to be based on comparable determinations to last summer, which if you remember, we were at the bottom of the barrel in terms of the ranking to be able to even be considered for summer money. And so we're not considering any additional programs at this point. For 26-27, we may see something as a result of that coming forward for us for summer money to be able to begin doing things again. The other piece I wanted to share with you, which I got steeped in big yesterday, has to do with our upcoming integrated guidance application. Where did that go? And it's that time again to upgrade for the biennial integrated guidance. Kings Valley met with me yesterday. The ESD met with me yesterday to have some conversation about kind of where we are in planning. So the applications are due the end of April. We're not going to get to approve it formally as a board until May, just because we're not in a position. I had kind of had a hunch that the community survey for strategic planning would have come ahead of the last session we did about portrait of a graduate. Since that was the normal order of things, and without that, it kind of changes where we're going with input. And so we're going to move forward on that, on those assumptions. So I want to share with you kind of where we are prioritizing and give you information of where you're going, so there's not a surprise when you see things in May. If you remember, that integration had to do with trying to combine and package programs together. And I won't belabor that point because there's pros and cons on all fronts with that one. The aligned pieces of information start to take these programs and wish to weld them together. So what we're looking at is in our career and technical education, we are a part of a consortium through LBCC, my bad, for funding that goes through there. So that specific to our CTE programs and the specifics of what happens in those programs and what gets spent is all an LBCC consortium agreement. We get funding for early literacy. And when you see this CSL versus GRB, CSL is current service level. GRB is governor's recommended budget. So they gave us two different distinctions for possibilities. And what we chose to do was go with the lower end of these, and some of it based on recommendations, and some of them are the same in both categories, but we really wanted to be reasonable. So we're looking at the 99,850 in a first year for early literacy, 103,925 in a second year. Our early literacy funding is going to maintain support of our lit camp, some response to instruction to, and intervention, RTII, and oral language, especially for our primary students at K1, in the support of a speech language pathology assistant that has seen some incredible gains for kids that aren't quite to the IEP level, but just need that little bit of how do I pronounce, how do I hold my tongue, how do I do that kind of thing, that are making some incredible gains. The early indicator, in intervention systems, has to do with, what are we doing to monitor student success, in terms of, our ninth graders on track? So we do some things with synergy extras or some, special licensing for software. And that will be the same, a minimal amount of money across both 2 years. Everyday Matters is about attendance. There's no specific funding stream, but the request is that be attended to across all funding streams. High school success. Not too far. High school success, we're looking at almost $468,000 in the first year, 486, almost 487 in a second year. Student investment account is $1.4 million, in both years, with just a slight increase in that. So, that's what we look at when we make choices to be able to do the allocations there. So, this is just really a recap of, it addresses continuous improvement planning, and one of the things that we try to work on is to have our integrated guidance plan and our continuous improvement plan for the district, to the degrees possible, be the same document. So we don't have 2 or 3 or 4 different documents sitting on the shelf that nobody knows what to pick up or what to do. And so that's really important, to be able to make sure that all of that comes together. I mentioned the Everyday Matters for attendance, career connected learning, the High School Success Act, student investment account, and the early intervention or early indicator and intervention system. So it's those same programs that were listed. The early literacy, career and technical education. The federal school improvement is not something that we've been in as a district. It falls to those schools who are in the significantly low academic performance group, and they have specific supports coming from the Department of Ed as a comprehensive support and improvement school or a targeted support and improvement school. So it's not money we get, and it's not money we want, frankly, when you're down in the low end. So that doesn't count for us. Required planning process, we have to take a look at our equity lens. Again, community engagement, which I had hoped we would have other pieces of that. Comprehensive needs assessment, we continue with tribal consultation, potential impact on focal students. So they're talking a lot about how do you make sure that access is available to traditionally underserved student groups? How do you make sure they have access to the same classes that everybody has? How do you make sure that there's an equitability along the way and that you're looking out for those needs? The development of a 4-year plan with clear outcome strategies and activities. Existing plan to review and revise. I missed something there. The quality education model was a part that ODE put in there. The Student Success Act plans, some of the recommendations they put forward, and reviewing and using regional CTE data, and being able to take that all into account to be able to make those decisions. So our focus areas, and I kind of went through them and what we were looking at, really are in the area of academics. We look at supporting literacy and numeracy and problem solving really through a lot of our RTII activities, and in instructional materials adoption. We've added some funding there to be able to say, we can't use just general funds to be able to pay for a comprehensive language arts adoption or a math adoption. If you want to implement those with fidelity, especially those content areas, they're going to cost more. And so we want to make sure we have enough. Our English language development program, we've chosen extracurricular fee reduction to allow our students to participate. And it opens the doors to more students to be able to participate in our drama and our athletics. Staff mentoring, and that has come up, especially in the last year, as being something that we need to make sure we focus more on. And so that is actually coming more to the forefront than it has in the past, to be able to make sure that we're taking care of business, both for those folks who are new to the teaching profession, but also those that are new to a school, that don't necessarily need the same things. But how are we looking at longevity and being able to keep people in the profession? Social emotional learning, career and technical education. When I say school transitions, we especially have beefed up the 8th to 9th grade transition. With the 8th grade success coaches at the middle school and I'm thinking of the summer, can you help me, Nicole, that Steve Bennett and company,
The bridge. program?
Bridge, thank you. To be able to support students in those moves. High school success, are our freshmen on track? What about our high school graduation rate? What about all those different pieces and parts? Of course, technology, a lot of the things that we're doing, this fund supports safety and then equitable access. So those have really been are important areas to be able to use this funding. So the state has progress markers that we have to do and things like that. And so you'll see specific data on those fronts and what they call longitudinal performance growth targets of if in those particular areas. So for 3rd grade reading proficiency, what do you see it projected as gain over time? What do you see for 9th grade students on track to graduate on time as the projected over time? So there are some data predictions that they ask us to make. So there'll be a lot more detail that will come back in the plan, but wanted to be able to put forward where we are, what we're thinking, not huge changes from where we were in the past. In terms of continued funding, but we've really added emphasis to information that beefs up safety concerns and the mentoring, just as two that we've said we need to make sure we're adding to that pocket. So that's kind of just the quick nutshell to be able to say you'll see more detail about integrated guidance in terms of the full plan come May. And what did I lose?
Looks like every.
I was gonna say that too.
Maybe hit escape. You get unplugged?
Let's do one. The two,
Technology left.
it's like a second screen.
There you go.
Okay, there's that. There we are. I think that's all I got.
Okay, thank you. Anybody got any questions on that? Financial report, Jennifer.
Try to be short and sweet again. Thank you for offering to have me go earlier. The game was just about over when you said that, but they ended up winning, so it was good. Yeah. They're 6-1 now, doing well. Yeah. It's good. We're working on finishing up budget building for the 25-26 year. We finished up all of our meetings with the buildings today. We just have one more with the special programs, I think, to go over wants and needs for the next year. We're still using the $11.4 billion biennial budget. We haven't heard any updates on any adjustments to that. Still waiting to hear if there will be any additional special ed funding. If that comes through, that would help out. Looking at enrollment, we're still holding steady, same amount that we've been all year. We don't, still not anticipating a huge increase for next year, and that's why where we're sitting at for the state school fund for the budget building. We're also waiting for information on the 23-24 May reconciliation payment. ODE released an estimate. It was not complete though, so we're waiting for the 15th. They're going to do another estimate. I've anticipated that we'll be about even. We shouldn't, if anything, we will owe a tiny bit, and they remove that from our May payment for this current year. But I've done some estimating. I don't think it will be a big adjustment. We've heard about our high cost disability reimbursement. We get that as an estimate on the first year, and then when they do the reconciliation, they go through and take reporting from all the districts and recalculate the high cost disability reimbursement. When they gave us the initial estimate, it was about a 49% reimbursement for the costs that all districts reported. We would get 49% back. They've recalculated it, and it's about 22% now. So our high cost disability payment for 23-24 has been reduced by about $20,000. There's just not enough to go around for the increase in what everybody is claiming. And then, so for the current year, it's still estimated at 49% of, just because they haven't updated it. So we'll see that again next May for the current year roads. In 3 years again. And then I included appropriation report for you as well. We're monitoring those. Everything looks pretty good except the pool fund. I'll probably have a resolution for you next month. With the increased usage from Osborne being closed, we've obviously had more staffing. We've brought in some more revenue. So I'm gonna monitor that as we go through the next month and see what we bring in and what we're gonna have to do for appropriation. We may not have to do a big adjustment, but we definitely, by the end of this year, will go over the appropriation. So we need to fix it before we get to that point, just to follow Oregon budget law. And I'll have more for you in May on that as we look forward to that. Other than that, I don't have any other big news.
Okay, I got a question.
Uh-huh.
Student population. Are we being funded at last year's level right
Yes.
now?
Yes, we're still at,
And then if it stays down to where it is now for next year, we'll just be funded at that level?
it's the better of the 2 years,
The
previous
better
or
of the 2
current.
years,
Yeah, so
okay,
if we go down for next year, we'll still be funded at this year's
at
rate.
this year's level.
Yeah, but it
Okay.
won't go all the way back to last year's rate, which was
Yeah,
much higher. Yeah.
okay.
Yep.
Thank you,
Mhm.
all right. As always, a good report. Well done, anyhow. 19th Street construction on strategy and discussion.
We think we're almost done. There will be some night work that will resume next week that will close, at night. The 19th from Applegate to College. While work is done there at night. We have been able to shift back to, we had Clemens primary students being picked up. They were walking students over to the middle school and the bus was picking them up there because the fire lane had to be more of a traffic lane, for people to work through. Monday, we started the return of picking up our Clemens primary students in that fire lane, after school. And there will be a little bit of time that we will be let know that some of the patching work will be done in the fire lane where there will be a closure for a couple of hours. But they've been very good with being able to time those in parts of the day when we don't have lots of folks going here and there. So we know that it's not gonna hinder the buses at the end of the day, where they're gonna have to go around another direction. And then at that point, we think that 19th Street, at least for us, gets put to bed. And probably looking at the 1st of May, being able to put the expectations of the fire lane back to what they were before the construction started. So that we have those time periods when the buses go through, when we don't want cars to go through. And we'll come back to be able to hold to that.
Do we know the timeline of the final paving of 19? Right now, it's all patched.
Hi, sir.
Hi.
Mr. Mayor.
I don't have an exact date, but it'll be over the summer.
Okay, that's what I
because-
figured. I just.
Yeah,
Because there's a little city and county in there.
yeah, but it's, the county is doing the whole project, including the city's portion. We're just, because they already have the contractor, we're just paying a little extra for them to do our portion too. So it'll be over the summer when school's out. I don't know the exact date. I don't know if the county's selected that yet, but yeah, they'll be doing all the way from Chapel up to like.
It's a fun bumpy ride, right?
Yeah, yes,
There was some patching done.
there was, yes.
Uh-huh, that was good.
No, big chunk of my week is hearing people's thoughts on that.
Uh-huh.
I noticed going north on
Yes,
19th, they have fixed
much
that.
better, yes.
Much better.
The holes that you had to drive through.
The off-roading.
And a car is
off-road.
bad enough, a dump truck is like 10 times as bad.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
My car
Yes.
turned itself toward the high school earlier. It was fine.
Oh, well, good.
Circles like that.
So,
Self-driving.
Just where I was going anyway, it was fine.
question, I just since they had 13th closed yesterday, I had to run 19th.
Okay,
And you come north on 19th, and there's a sign right there by where the little white poles start.
Oh,
And it catches your attention more than the white poles. Is there some way that we can put something on that first white pole to kind of bring attention that there is poles there and it's not just a painted line?
Like that yellow and black tape up the pole or something that you catch.
Well, whatever, I don't know what they would put on it, but I mean, something, cause I caught the sign
Is it
over
like
here
the
on the
crosswalk-
left.
The crosswalk sign in the middle?
Yeah, I think it was a
Yeah,
crosswalk. That,
Okay,
you know, it stuck out like a sore thumb,
okay,
but if you move over a little bit to miss that, you're right at those white
right,
poles,
okay.
especially in a truck,
They bounce back up.
sometimes. But no, I'm just, you
the
know,
car or the pole?
Talking about the poles that are roughly the size of a human being on the
Yes.
side?
Those are plastic. though,
Sorry, I'm just
remember?
teasing you. I'm just teasing you, Rick.
yeah, well, they're little short things, and when you're in a truck, they, you know, kind of get lost out there, but just something on the, especially on the first one that kind of sticks out that, hey, there's something here, it's not just a painted line.
Okay, let me ask,
Okay.
yeah, cause I mean, we're gonna have to. Take those out and put them back in again this summer anyway, when they repave it.
Okay,
so,
well, I'm just talking, you know, like Ryan said, if you put some green tape, you know, like
Sure.
the coats and stuff are, you know, something that stands out,
They're-
you know, it wouldn't have to be
They're
reflective,
reflectors,
because
Are they
I mean, it probably
They're
should be,
already
but,
reflectors.
Well, at night that would help, but during the daylight, that doesn't help, really.
yeah, but
Reflectors
just something
don't do
that
much for you.
catches somebody's eye that there is something over here besides the white line.
Sure. I'll ask,
Yeah,
yeah,
but I just noticed that, because I hadn't been on 19th Street, I've always used 13th to stay away from the school zones.
right, sure,
And
Yeah.
I was forced to come up there yesterday, and
yeah,
it's like,
yeah,
wow, that's close,
yeah, okay.
so,
I'll
okay.
ask on that,
Not school related, but for half a second, when they had the 13th closed,
yeah,
I watched all these poor log trucks and chip trucks, cause there is no sign on Chapel that says. Road closed ahead, there's a sign that says road's gonna be closed, so if those trucks came down
I think it has the dates that the road is closed.
after you pass 19th.
Oh, you.
So those
before-
trucks end up, the rodeo grass, take a right,
Oh,
they go back further to Bellefonte Road, try again, cause they can't make the corner on the Grange Hall. So there's a
Okay.
long line of trucks one morning. Cause they get all the way to 13th and the barricades are up, says you can't turn, but they put nothing back here, so. As we're trying to get back, bring kids to school, there's just nonstop trucks. Making a big U-turn back around Fern, turn back around again,
Okay,
just a side note.
more signage.
Shout
yeah.
out.
Signage.
no shortage of signs.
So just something. Turn here, like, they
Sure.
put the detour sign at the. That's not Cedar, the little street, the cars with detouring through residential.
15.
Yeah, yeah, there's a detour sign there, but you can't take a truck down there.
I did,
I was gonna, I think.
You're not driving a chip truck.
dump truck.
Yeah.
Dump truck shorter than a chip track.
Yeah. Anyway.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Okay, safety committee updates.
Yeah, finally had the opportunity to start putting together some of the data from our couple of sessions. And so what I put up here and what I'll share is we did a listening sessions, we did an online survey. And on the online survey, there were 52 responses. And in that, we had categories, so I'll just hit the first one, emergency protocols and response. With the first question being, how do you feel about updating protocols for fire emergencies? How important are those things to you? And we did it on a scale of 1 to 5.
Can you zoom in just a bit on
Yeah.
that, Susan? It's
I
kind of
can.
hard to see over here.
Do you wanna
Thank you
switch
so
these?
much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is that better?
Yeah, much better.
Yeah, and so you can see that the lockdown and shelter in place and communication systems during emergencies were two of the higher in that one. And then I pulled out all the comments. Because it asked for the rating, and then it was, what are the comments that you have in these sections? And then we get into threats and incident response, and this is where you start to see developing clearer protocols for reporting and responding to threats of violence, 4.08. So you've got a significant improving threat assessment procedures, 3.83. So you can see that jump in those particular areas as being something of import. Again, the comments, dysregulated student behaviors, 4.44, 4.46, 4.25, 4.4. So this really becomes the heart of at least from this survey, and you'll see it in the other side too, of where our level of importance or where the level of concern is.
Yeah.
And like I said, I will share this information. Staff injury prevention and response. You've got a 4 at developing strategies for presenting and managing workplace violence against staff. And then adequacy of staffing levels to ensure safety, addressing physical safety of staff during student behavior incidents. Again, it pairs itself back to the other commentary. And then, again, the comments of what are your biggest safety concerns that are not addressed in the survey. I'm just gonna whip through what specific suggestions do you have for improving safety protocols and response? What resources or training would be most helpful to you in enhancing safety? And are there any specific areas where you feel communication about safety could be improved? What voices are we missing? So it says teachers. And I'm thinking that has to do more with not just asking the voices of teachers in the survey, but just as a whole, being able to make sure we're listening to that. Because it would be easy to say, well, you had the opportunity to answer the survey, we've got teachers' voices. But I understand that there is another layer, or I'm assuming that there's another layer in that, that has to do with listen to us in something other than just a survey. And other comments and suggestions, and you can see that the responses were primarily licensed staff. Classified staff were our second largest. Primary grade representation, 50% were elementary. The 32.7 were secondary, and then these folks identified as K-12, which could cover a myriad of folks. So you get the hit of where things are there. So then we took the information from the input session, and I think I may have mentioned that I had nobody in the morning session, and I had 27 people attend the afternoon session with a cross section from really all over the place. And so asked that group to be able to put information on Post-its. And then we kind of talked through what people were thinking. And so the first cut that came back, I pulled up and thank you, artificial intelligence. I plugged in all the comments into that to be able to say, so let's prioritize from what we get. And so you can see immediate threats and emergency preparedness. And I put the comments in, or the Post-it notes in here as a high priority. With student behavior and staff safety, the other high priority. Then you start getting to communication and reporting, a medium priority. I mean, and again, this is policies and procedures, medium priority, school climate and culture, medium to lower, but foundational, infrastructure and resources, medium to lower, administrator training and support, medium. So, and some of this I know had to do with the number of times information was raised. We've also discovered that there are some things that, especially in the group commentary, the group that came together, that said we need a safety committee at every school. And originally it was like, oh, that's gonna, how tenable or untenable will that be? And the more we've talked about it, the more we've said, you know, it might not be a bad idea to do something at every school. That then aggregates to a more common. So everybody gets to hear everybody, at least a couple of times. There are also a couple of these things that we are going to consider moving to the facilities and infrastructure side of the house. The lockdowns and the drills and things like that, which I had made kind of an assumption that they might be on the student safety side. Really, they're looking like they could and should fall on the other side of the house. So we're talking right now about how do we line out which of those pieces. And because we had more input than I thought we were gonna, which is great, than I thought we were gonna get. I had set up a meeting for April 17th, which is next week, for our safety committee. There's been some communication about, well, who is on the committee and who wants to be. And so the general conversation, which I haven't had a chance to have outside this, is to be able to hold that meeting, but make it more of an open meeting to lay out the framework and the groundwork, to be able to make sure we're hearing what we need to hear to then move forward. Because Joey and Garth and Kelsey and I have not had the time in the last 2 weeks to be able to get together, to be able to make sure that we can absolutely line out what the pieces and parts are. I've also looked at inviting a guest to be able to come talk to us specifically about their dealings and their protocols around student behavior and staff injury and things like that. So I'm sorry, I can increase that too. So it's always nice to be able to get the data and put it into, but really it looks like we're talking about the one side that has to do with facility infrastructure and evacuation, lockdown, reunification, those kinds of things. And the other side that really has to do with student behavior and student dysregulation and staff student injury. That's kind of the line of how things seem to be shaping out.
I have a question. This that you put into the AI tool, did you include the survey results with this also? Or
I
is
have
this
not yet.
only from
This
the
was,
meeting?
this was only from the
Okay.
in-person.
Thank you.
Cause I want, and that's the next step is then to be able to, how do we meld them together and make sure they line? From first blush, when I started looking at them, that's what I did this morning when we didn't have internet was I took all the Post-its and plugged them in. And then when we got internet back, it was this. But it was a way of being able to say, how do we take a look at kind of how things fall and where they're putting together and what's our common end. So that's where we are.
And when is that meeting on the 17th?
It is, good question. Hold on. I had put a 3 to 4, assuming that it would be 3:15-ish, because we know we get our high school folks out later. And that's kind of what we did with the listening session. We did like a 3:15 to 4 o'clock. And that's why we did the Post-it notes, was to be able to get a structure that would allow people to be able to be in and out in that reasonable amount of time.
And where will that meeting be?
That I don't know yet,
Okay.
but I'll make sure that we get the information out. I thought about, gee, you know, we haven't had a chance to come together and have the conversations, but I don't want to delay. And so it was like, let's keep moving forward.
Are you able to send me a copy?
Yeah, I will. I'll send them out.
That'd
Yeah,
be great.
Yeah.
I'd love to have that as well.
yeah, I'll make sure you send, and I'll make sure that they go, Nicole, to you and to our OSEA group too.
Thank you.
You're welcome. very informative. The other thing that we determined was, there are some differences between priority and need, not entirely, but some differences in priority and need from secondaries, middle and high school and elementary.
Sure.
That the staff injury and, that side of it really seems to be more elementary. That's the level of concern.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I get it, you know, we've got these little bodies that aren't quite sure what's happening to themselves, that when you get to high school.
Oh.
Typically, you've developed some coping skill or some communication skill that allow you an opportunity to not act in that same way. But, there are also the discipline concerns within the high school for, a different setup of safety. And so, it really, what it's lining up as, because we're talking about if we had safety as a big part of our fall in service, those are some of the things that we're looking at. If we had some segments there, what it's looking at, what do we need to do that might fit for everybody K-12, but are there some things that we may want to actually split the group based on priority and need, to really maximize what we're giving people and what they want.
Okay. Facility update.
Yep. I'll just get to keep yammering away. Last month, I provided this particular image and talked about facility needs and, you know, kind of where we're at and what we're thinking and when we can bond. And we're struggling right now, especially with Fulham Academy and space needs there. And what do we do? And so over on the bottom side here, it was about we want to maintain, do we look at purchasing in the community or short-term rental or renovating or remain status quo? What do we do? And it was really putting it out there because I know there are some people who have seen us. We actually did some looking a couple of times at the old Fulham Family Medicine building. We went and walked through it to be able to see if something like that might be an opportunity more for the movement of the district office that would provide the academy with more space. Once we started looking at that and looking at the, I mean, it kind of had that exciting flair. But as we started to think about it more and more and to look at renovation costs, which, you know, would be here, we'd have to carpet and paint. There'd be a couple of walls you'd need to knock out and some different kinds of things. And then the running technology lines there, to make sure that we would have internet and just simply the purchase price. When we came back and talked about it after the second time we went to visit, and Jennifer's communicated with them, with Rubicon, that not at this time. We had conversation and said, it really is not where we are budgetarily fiscally prudent for us to put $1 million into a facility. And make sure that we can have the renovations and all kinds of things like that.
So it's for sale, it's not for lease?
It is for lease, but
Oh, okay.
you know, the same thing we were looking at is if we were to get into it, because of the costs, we would look to purchase rather than lease.
Okay.
And, it just didn't seem fiscally prudent to go there. And so we've backed out of that look. And wanted to be able to bring it forward because we know, there are people that probably saw us in and out of that facility and are saying, what in the world are they doing and what are they keeping from us? And it's nothing, you know, we're still looking for how to, take a look at academy space, but then we start looking at, okay, now that we know that a purchase in the community isn't in the realm of what would be a prudent decision at this point, what are the other things that we can look at as we continue to move forward. So just wanted to put that out there and put that in the public record that it's not in the cards for us.
Sure.
So is Rubicon the owner of the building or the management company for the building?
They are
They
the
own
owner.
it, okay.
I have a question over space, with just random thinking, if the academy wasn't in the administration building there, what was that space used for? Previous, or do you need that space?
It was our boardroom.
But besides that, did you guys use that space during the day?
Meeting, probably.
Yeah, for meetings. Right now, we're cramming into my office for meetings. And so, yeah, it was used for a bunch of different kinds of meetings. It was a space where, if if it was empty and you needed to have a private phone call, somebody could go and have a private phone call. We've also looked at if we wanted to add district staff, because there's been conversation about, can we put a human resources director, at least part-time? We don't have a place to put them. We just don't. And so, that's kind of what we're looking at. We can't move the Philomath Academy back to the high school. It's just not a good fit. If we put them in the library, they have to enter into the core of the school to be able to use the restrooms and things like that. And it just, they have their own home. If we went to the middle school, and looked at the modulars, we'd have to outfit the modulars we'd have to do restrooms. Because we don't want passage into the middle school to be able to use the restrooms in the school. And, so it's all those kinds of things we're taking a look at right now to be able to say, what might make the most sense?
Well, as you're talking, I'm just thinking, you keep mentioning the wing on the primary school that was in the plans. And if you were talking about moving the office and think about a whole other property, I think it was more affordable to build that wing and move the academy there, leave your office set, because moving things like all your communication stuff, that's very expensive.
Yeah.
If your office is satisfactory, maybe it's looking at moving the academy, or, I mean, I just assume you're looking at buying a building, adding a wing would be in the similar ballpark of finance.
Right, and we figured that, because of the age of an older building, that we might be able to talk it down, get it for less. It had been on sale for, I don't know how long. I mean, so all those things kind of came into play. But during bonding, that's one of the things that we've said, is that wing gonna be a piece of when we go after a facilities bond? And so now it's really about what makes sense, if anything, to do, right now in another way. That could give us some additional space in the interim until we can get to that bonding time.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay, on to discussion and action items, the student representatives to the board.
I only raised that simply because this was on our agenda from a year ago,
Sure.
where we started to have the conversation about the process for being able to find student members for next year. And so I have no grandiose plans or thoughts, but it was really about wanting to put that back on the board's radar. We also know that some of it went through ASB.
I would love to have that be the approach again this time, to have the students elect their representative or representatives, excuse me, to the board during their student government election.
Right.
If it could all be on the same ballot and.
And so,
all at the same time.
yeah, and where it is we have a new ASB instructor this year, so it's just gonna be interfacing and talking with the new person in that slot that's been there through this year, to be able to talk them through the process. And it was kind of like, last year it was, Erin, I know you owned pieces of it. Are there things I need to do? Are there things that the board wants to do? It was just about saying, I don't want to forget the process. That's all.
Yeah, and I think Dave kind of shepherded it in the end, during that transition.
That's
Mr. Dunham, during that transition over to the new leader, of student government at the high school. One thing that we had mentioned before was, is there ever going to be interest for a middle schooler to want to join? And I would be curious to see how we might do that in the future.
Okay.
So that would be a great question, I think, for our student representatives on the board right now, if they have any ideas, whether that's a feasible possibility or not, even if it was just having them come to the school board meetings every once in a while for that student government report and giving us a little, a report from their school.
Be curious to see if any other schools in the state have middle schoolers.
I think that it was mentioned at one of the OSBA conferences that there are some who have kind of reporting too, but
Okay,
not
okay.
as
It
a
seems
student
awfully
representative.
young,
Pretty
but
cool opportunity.
yeah, if somebody was interested.
Hey, they can be mayor for a day, might as well.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think if we could run it through the student government election process at the high school, the way we did in the fall, I think it's important for them to be a representative of their peers, and be chosen by their peers.
So,
I think I sent you the paperwork that I had access to on the Google Drive for that.
I'll search my email.
Yeah, it would have been this time last year or 3 months from now last year. So 9 months ago. Yeah, I just think that is a simple approach and it allows the representatives to be just that, representative.
And who runs the USB class or program right now?
Is it Jessica?
Just Matson.
Yeah,
Okay.
Jessica Matson.
Okay.
So would the board like me to reach out to Jessica as a start, or would the board like to do it, or how would you like to proceed?
Go for it, please, Susan.
Thanks, Sandy.
Sure.
I was hoping someone
Just
else would
thought
say
I'd
it.
That's what I'm here for.
Okay, that take care of that.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we keep the process moving.
Okay, close the 24-25 inter-district transfer.
The request of our administrators was to close any inter-district transfers from now until the end of the year. It doesn't change what we voted on last month for the 25-26 year and the slots that are open. What this does is just says from here until the end of the year in 24-25, we're gonna put the hold on not accepting anyone else in if the board agrees.
Do we have to have an official vote on that?
Yeah, we
Okay.
can, the information said that we can make changes to those numbers at any meeting of the board. But the board has to approve that decision.
Okay, so do I hear a motion?
I so move.
All right,
Second.
moved and seconded. All those in favor? Motion passes 5-0.
Great, thank you.
Softball field naming committee.
So we talked about last time, and I know we've got coach and, which before I get any farther, I have to do the aside, because Jennifer talked about the baseball record. What's the softball record?
6-3.
Nice.
I scored more runs this year than last year combined.
There have to be an equal opportunity. So, we talked last month about the process and protocols of facility naming. And Jeff Williams and I have continued to be in touch. Jeff couldn't be with us tonight. And, so I know Eric is here. And, this is good. What I did based on last time's conversation is reached out to the tribe. I reached out to Alyssa Lane Keene and Buddy Keene, who have been my contacts in all the deliberations that I've done with the tribe. Jeff, I'm assuming followed up with them, but I know he followed up with the tribe. And I'm assuming it was them. And came back and asked a couple of questions about our agreement. and he has said the tribe is happy with what you are doing. And supports what's happening. The thing that I've not heard, because I've not heard back from Alyssa or Buddy, is what happens to our agreement with the selects? Do we extend it now? Or are we still in that, 2 years left in a 5-year, and then we renew it at that point? And so that's, and that's just a minor detail, but that's a piece of the puzzle that I am still waiting on. But the general consensus from what I hear from Jeff is that the tribe is supportive. So in our policy, it says that the general procedure is nominations shall be submitted to the superintendent in writing, which happened in the letter. The board will appoint an advisory committee to consider such a request. And so in following that, it would be a committee to meet and deliberate about and how that would set up. Committee makes the recommendation to the board on any requests, and the advisory committee's recommendations include reasons why and things like that. So this is the process. I know that in the original request, there was a desire to name the field sooner rather than later. And when I told Jeff about putting together the committee, he wanted it to move faster. And I get that, because one of the things that I had told him is I said, if we make a decision now, it's gonna be made at the May board meeting by the time we, if we get a committee together, which my suggestion would be, if we go that route, that the board allows me to assign a committee. Gives me permission to do that. We'll make that happen, but then it's a May approval, which means the softball season is almost done. So it doesn't happen for this year.
Can the board, I'm asking, I'm not suggesting, asking, can the board waive that and approve it and move forward? Can the board decide, there's a policy you're reading. Can the board, to make it happen and it doesn't go into next year, can the board waive that and vote on it tonight?
And I have to defer to the board, because it says
Santa Claus, can the
the
board?
the naming or renaming of existing facilities will be at the discretion of the board. The general procedure for selecting a name for a new facility, and it outlines what those are. And so what I told Jeff is I said, when he asked me that, I said, I can't of my own accord walk outside board policy unless I don't want to keep my job anymore. That was kind of where we landed. The other thing that I want is I also want to be able to make sure that we know what this means in terms of the timing of the official relationship. So I did tell Jeff that we could unofficially, depending upon what the board wants, we could unofficially name it. Make the approval in May and be able to celebrate it in the late winter, early spring for next year's softball season as the formal title. That's a way that it could be done. But it's not my place to be able to it was not my place or decision to be able to step outside our policy.
Has there been any suggestion or recommendation of a different name?
No,
To
because
this
we
point.
haven't opened it. because
I
we
know,
haven't
I'm just
formed
saying,
the committee.
No,
you
there
haven't
have,
heard anything else or any other suggestions or, okay.
yeah, and I have heard nothing.
What's that?
I said, I'm sort of the one who brought it up.
Yeah,
Sure,
you
sure,
did.
of course, of course. I just was wanting to know if anybody else, if there was any reason not to go forward with it, because it seems guys have no problem with, even if it's unofficial, going with it, like you say, Ryan. It just like,
Yeah, and
almost seems like a no-brainer, but
And it took a little while to take a look at it, because typically when we're naming, it says honoring individuals, groups, places, or events. But then it says the contributing sponsor or all kinds of things like that. So typically we've not named after a mascot
sure.
in a formal way.
Yeah.
But there's nothing that stops that from happening, because we're talking about honoring groups and places,
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
you know, in terms of how that plays out. So to follow through the whole process, yeah.
So one of the reasons, just to kind of shed some light on the reason why I wanted to name it Warrior, aside from the fact that I'm native too, so being from a school that has, I like to say logo because it's a little different for me, but has the Warriors. We've played 2 other schools this year that just seeing our uniforms with our logo on it, having the Warriors, they had similar logos. They were like, it's so awesome that you guys get to still have that because we don't have them, or our logo had to change or something like that. And when I took over the program, I wanted to learn everything about it. So I wanted to know all the past coaches, everybody who's donated, and it's been a huge community effort.
Mhm.
And so for me, thinking about naming the school, that's what encompasses Warrior Field is, it's been everybody. And when we built the new dugout, we had so much community effort in building the new dugout that for me, it was, you know, when I read the policy and read that, you know, it was named after a group or named after, that's my idea is kind of once a warrior, always a warrior. This is naming the field for everybody. And so
Sure.
that's kind of my idea where it came from. And then, you know.
Oh, no, I love it.
Yeah.
I've been a Warrior for 39 years now.
Yeah.
I started teaching in 85, so.
Well, that's okay, but I still, I want to go by policy.
Sure, okay, no problem.
And we can name it unofficially Warrior Field for now and still go by the policy and do the steps, because who knows who might speak up when it's in the committee process.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get into a big fight with somebody over that. I want to, you know, we have a policy for a reason. And it says that, you know, it'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different steps to get everything done. So I just as soon stay with that, but for the time being, I wouldn't see any problem with unofficially naming it Warrior Field.
And I just want to make sure we make it clear that this is in honoring of the tribe and of.
Oh, yeah. No,
The relationship we have with them and,
yeah,
yeah, for sure.
yeah, because I think we have a great relationship with them so far. I mean,
Agreed.
yeah.
So with it being, and I completely in support with whatever you guys decide, with it being unofficial, part of the including in this, and I think I touched on this a little bit in my letter, is typically when you do any kind of reservation or any kind of field work, any digging, any building, things like that, in native culture, there's usually a ceremony that comes with that. And so one of the tribal members that Jeff was referring to, Buddy Lane, is an elder and wanted to come and do like an honor song and do that type of thing. Would we still be able to do that this year, or would we need to wait until it's over? The seniors of this year really have in company, like they've really embodied what it is to be a warrior and kind of the reasons why I want to name the school or name the field this. And so would we be able to do that, or would we need to wait until it's officially?
I guess that would be a tribe question.
Yeah, they're offering, like, when can we do this? When can we?
Yeah, well, no, that's what I'm saying, because, you know, it's unofficial, but it has to go through the process. I don't see any snags in the process.
I don't either.
So, I wouldn't have a problem if they want to have him come over and do that now. You know, that would be fine with me.
Yeah,
And
So I have a
I don't know that
question.
any, huh?
I have a question. When is the end of the season officially?
Hoping we make it to the playoffs, not till the end of May.
End of
When is
May?
your last
Okay.
scheduled regular season
Um,
game?
I can tell you right now.
Thank you. Because while we should follow policy and these steps, they are not necessarily long, laborious, drawn out steps. And we can determine the timeline of it. And so, if that's something that we wanted to coincide with either the end of the season or the end of the school year, it's possible for us to follow our rules and our procedures and still meet that timeline.
May 15th is our last
May
scheduled game, and then it
15th.
goes.
So we have a board meeting before the end of the season, and I don't think there's any problem having a decision through the committee before our next board meeting.
I don't think so either. The biggest thing would be, following the requirements of who is on the committee, which it will consist of a number that we determine as the board, but it must include members of the general community and may include teachers, students, and administrators, and a district administrator will serve as the chair of the committee.
Yeah.
And so we just need to make sure that we cover those, that they're able to meet, that we're able to say, submit any alternate names that you may come up with by X date. Then they meet, determine which name, and bring that to the board to vote on.
Yeah. I don't see a problem within the next week putting that committee together.
Who is gonna do that?
We, as a board, appoint the committee. So we could tonight say that we would like
We do
Rick,
right
or
now.
that we would like you, or whoever.
Or you can direct me to.
Yeah.
you can-
Or
you
we
can
direct
appoint some,
Susan.
And then
Yeah.
direct me to round it out to
Sure.
include.
Like, we could just say Christopher McMorrin has to be our community member on the board. I'm sorry.
That guy.
The committee.
We can't
approximately
compel.
30 days.
I'm being drafted.
Yeah, it's not gonna be a long drawn out process.
You missed that. Can the people in the committee meet tonight in about 20 minutes when the meeting's over? As our first step, we have, we have teacher, we have
We have a
public,
teacher.
we have board members, and we get to appoint them, so if we just.
You're a member of the public.
1, 2, 3, 4, we
I'm
move
just
on.
teasing. I mean, technically, the school board is also a member of the public. Okay,
One other thing I wanted, for the last meeting, I know there was mention of concern of, the amount of money it was gonna cost to do re-signage and things like that. I know that was brought up at the last meeting. We've had multiple people volunteer to make signs, do woodworking. Both, the middle school and the high school shop departments have offered to do any kind of signage for that, so that's not a concern if that
Nice.
helps.
I want to restate this. I move that we have a meeting tonight of our first committee meeting with any board members willing to stay and
Could be
one
at
public
maximum
official
two.
required to stay.
Oh, yeah, that
Only,
Yeah,
goes.
only have 2 board members, but,
I gotta split.
I don't know if I would wholeheartedly go with that or not. Yeah, we have people here, but
I appreciate that we should probably give it a little more time.
yeah, that's.
I like
that's
I'm gonna
kinda-
follow-
I agree with Joe there on that we need to sit down and make a list of the people and do that, but
I will volunteer
it'll
myself
still
to
be
take that
done.
task.
long before our next board meeting,
Yeah.
before the end of your season.
Did you hear that?
So Rick, I'm gonna volunteer myself to work with Susan, once we determine tonight how many members of the committee. And you can all email me a name or 2 of people you would like to see on the committee.
Hey, wait a minute, I was gonna volunteer for that job.
Well,
Take it. Take it.
Right there.
There can be 2.
Christopher did you have a question or a comment?
Oh, well, I was just gonna say, I think, because I took my public meetings law training
Yes.
recently, that I think if you're creating a committee that's advising the governing board,
Mhm.
and that
We
is
have to
also,
publicize the
that is
meeting.
also subject to public meetings law, which requires
That's
No,
24 hours.
it's-
24-hour notice, but that,
just to say we can't do it.
I'm thinking we can meet with Susan and get a list of names together to approve and then have this committee meeting next week and, you
And,
know, put it on the fast track, basically.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
and I hate to say it, but you can't be a member of the committee because you were the person who submitted, yes.
Fair.
There would be a conflict of interest. Not a technical, like, legal governmental conflict of interest, because there's no money coming your way, but,
Fair.
Eric's
so
been
there,
very
that's one
quiet.
thing off your plate.
Eric's been very quiet, and I think he wants to ask or talk or something, so we'll let him.
If I could just make a point.
Sure.
You know that, if it helps at all, April 17th, this time next.
Next week.
Thursday, Is one that the next tribal council meeting is.
Okay,
With the Celeste, so if the committee
That's very good
needed
to
to
know.
communicate in any way,
okay,
anything, that
Yeah.
would be important to know.
okay. No, that is a good note that we have. If we need to communicate with them and, you know, get a response from them, then we can do that, so. But yeah, we'll get together with Susan. Aaron, did you want to help with that too?
Yeah, I'm happy to help with it unless
Okay.
you you feel very passionate that you want to take it on and then.
Or you can both be part of it.
Okay, I just want to just wrap up, because I started to say the steps. The final step is that the board will make the final selection of the name from the names submitted by the committee. Direct the committee to reconsider their recommendations and submit a revised list or make a selection of its own. So those are our three options when we come back next month.
Um. I have another monkey wrench to maybe throw into it. That could be a good one. We meet again May eighth or something like
The
that.
second Thursday is May 8th, yes.
We also have a meeting of this body with Kings Valley as a joint board meeting on the 28th of April.
Yeah,
Okay,
So if we,
And might we be able to,
well, if we have all our ducks in a row, we could do that on the 28th, and we wouldn't have to wait till the
I'm
8th.
just thinking if that's an option that speeds things up a little bit.
Yeah,
Um,
but we'd have to have
that's an official
everything.
meeting.
It's a meeting out at Kings Valley,
Right.
so we'd have to have all the technology hooked up so we could have the meeting broadcast.
recorded at
well, they have
least.
to do it anyway, too,
Okay.
to be able to make sure that we're.
All right, well, I'm just,
Yeah, no, you're
just saying.
spot
that's-
on.
So, yeah, and, I mean, we could possibly have it done by the 28th, and that just speed things up for you, Eric.
There's also a general council meeting, with the tribe on May 3rd.
Okay, so we got 2 dates before our next scheduled regular board meeting. Okay. Is that,
That sounds great.
okay,
Thank you all for your help.
all right. I just have a hard time going away from policy.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's there for a reason in my mind, so. If we can stick to it, then I like to, so,
Sounds great.
okay.
Thank you,
Yeah, so that takes care of that.
thank you.
Second reading of policies, GCAA. And this one here is the same policy, it's just backwards. It's
Mhm.
GBNAA. JHFF, or it's JHFF, GBNAA. And then we also have the CHCA.
Mhm.
You know, that explain CHCA or?
CHCA, yeah.
Yeah, I can do that. We had in February, I want to say, a parent come to us about, obtaining homework for students. Thank you, Eric.
Thanks, Eric. Good to see you again.
About obtaining homework for students and policy. And so, after some research, went back and took a look at policy CHCA, and I don't know if I have it.
That's right here.
Oh, thank you. Is about handbooks. And so, because it's short, it says, in order that pertinent board policies, administrative regulations, school rules and procedures may be known by all staff members, patrons, students, and parents affected, district administrators and principals are granted authority to issue staff and student parent handbooks. The contents of all handbooks must conform with district-wide board policies and administrative regulations. The publication shall bear the name of the district or one of its schools and be of a quality that reflects favorably on the district. The board expects all handbooks to be approved by the superintendent or designee before publication. The district will make published handbooks available to the board for informational purposes. The research really said, if we were to put a policy in place to say, you can pick up homework at any point in time, we're getting pretty tight on policy. The other piece of the puzzle is the handbook language for Philomath Middle School didn't say that the parent couldn't, it says the parent can contact the teacher at any point in time. If you are requesting through the office, that the office collect your homework, you wait till the third day. But it doesn't say you can't contact that teacher on the first day. So the handbooks really address the issue The other piece of that we know from all schools is if there is a particular student need, we will change the way we do homework requests for those particular students to be able to make it work.
I was gonna say, in the middle school, the site council meeting the other day, yesterday, Steve clarified this and said, you know, this is all in the, or will be in the handbook. I think it is in the handbook.
It is in the
Yeah.
handbook, but what I did was I took the snippets from the handbooks of all schools that had anything related to late work, or excuse me, requesting work when you're out. And put those together, and I'm asking the middle school and high school to coordinate and look for the pieces that are fitting. The middle schools is very clear about requesting homework from when you're out. The high schools is silent on that part, but has some other areas of strength. And then same thing at the elementary. Am asking them to look at those. So we are cleaning up our handbooks to be able to take care of that, but wanted to affirm that we have addressed this parent's concern and piece of information. And the opportunity to say, we're gonna do it in handbooks, and wanted to bring the handbook policy forward just as a reaffirmation to say, this is what we still believe this should be.
This policy hasn't changed at all.
No,
We're just
hasn't changed at all.
reaffirming that it's
Yep.
there.
Yep.
And it's, yeah.
Okay. So you wanna do these other two together or separate, or?
I would, unless people have questions, I would say. we
Well,
just do them
I'm
as a
just
group.
asking the policy committee.
Yeah, he's on the policy committee too.
Well, I know,
Yeah,
but
we should, the two that are the same, it's just, sort of how you reference into them,
yeah,
whether, so that's why. it's
whether
the
it's
same.
through the J's or whether
Whether
it's through the G's.
Yes, exactly.
Same policy.
Yeah.
So I think we for sure could do those together, if not all of them together.
Well, aren't all, looking through the policies, they're all changes normally of like add an S, taken away an S, they're just very, so.
Yes.
And you guys on the policy, unless there's something you need to discuss independently, I say we do them all together, because they're very little changes.
Yep.
Yes, I would say, GCAA is primarily, adding and removing acronyms in the first section, which, you know, cool acronyms we shouldn't use, because who knows what they mean. And then it's also expanding what does and does not, fall under the definition of sexual conduct. Just for the audience, GCAA is Standards for Competent and Ethical Performance of Oregon Educators. And the other two are in relation to, let me get the exact name, reporting requirements for suspected sexual conduct with students. And those are the two different groups of policies. So there was some change under the law, I believe, around the definition of sexual conduct that necessitated most of these changes. So unless somebody had any questions, I think that we would be safe to vote on these all as
Sure,
one.
group them all together.
grouping.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I so move.
I'll second. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion on this? All those in favor? Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. On to meeting closure. Next meeting agenda items.
Well, I think we'll have potentially at the next meeting, the vote for the facility naming
Yep.
committee results.
Unless we can do it at Kings Valley meeting.
That's
Well, that
the
would be
next
our-
meeting.
Oh,
That's our next meeting.
You're right, it is.
Yes, that was the only thing I had on my list.
You have anything, Sue? Other than just the regular yearly
Regular
things that come up for the May meeting?
Yeah, and Kelsey will be here to talk about student services, and Joey will be here to talk about facilities.
Okay,
Okay.
I guess the other thing for the May meeting would be the outcome of the next safety
Yeah.
committee meeting.
Yep.
Sort of the foundational work, whatever is decided there.
okay. Nothing else? Board, thanks.
We did it while they were here, but I really want to thank our technology people. They, as has been stated by many people, that they do a lot for us. And go above and beyond, and I'm really appreciative of them.
Absolutely. And I read a nice article in a little local Philomath News that gave me something to be thankful for. And I wanted to thank our former board member, Anton Grube, and his family members for starting a new scholarship through the Philomath Community Foundation. I think that's really incredible work and it's exciting to see. So thanks, Andy. I'll tell him in person one of these days. Actually, all of the local scholarships, they're all amazing. I shouldn't single any of them out. There are some other great scholarships that come from this table. All of them. We're getting into that season again soon.
Okay, well, I would like to, of course, thank all the staff. Take small and make everything work. Then the technology department, I think, does an outstanding job in not only doing technology, but trying to get us the best deal on the technology.
Mhm.
And I've got one here. For the forestry and natural resources, I'd like to thank them for my new sweatshirt.
Ooh,
Oh, nice.
that's
There you go.
fantastic. Ooh, and a Carhartt.
Yeah, so I got that from Simon this week.
That's very cool.
Very cool.
Did you get that because you're a board member?
No.
I know, you're gonna have to get back to the measures. Yeah. $43 sweatshirt.
I was asking for a friend.
And crazily now Rick wants to boost the forestry.
What do you mean? I thought it had already been boosted. No, it goes back to a long time ago when I had my truck and worked with them a lot more than I do now. I'd like to think there's just mutual respect from them to the people who's helped them in the past and try to continue to help them with everything. So I had a nice conversation with him the other day and trying to get the skills competition back up and go.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because I think that was a great thing to have, and I think that it would be well served to try to do it again, so. But anyhow.
Anytime they do a skills competition, they need to put somebody up there who has no idea what they're doing first, so that it's clear how hard everything they're doing is. Like the Olympics, they need to do that as well. Just put me up there for the long jump.
Yeah.
7.25 inches, you know, like
Yeah.
seriously, that would be amazing.
Yeah. Okay,
It was a short step.
is that all for board things? All right, board requests.
I think, Michelle, could you please, once we determine the meeting, send out that public notice for the naming committee? We'll figure out a time for the meeting.
Okay. Hearing nothing else. We're adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody, for being here.
Oh, I did, what, just because I don't want to look it up, if somebody knows off the top of their head, what day is graduation? Is it Saturday the 7th?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.